Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I am your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Representative Swalwell. He's done it again. He said something really, really crazy about COVID. If you're not familiar, he's the congressman from California, I believe it, and where he believes once said that people who have guns who think that they're going to take on the government aren't going to be able to do that because we have nukes. Because that's just what they would do to people. Just nuke everybody they don't like. So he's infamous for that. He's also infamous for sleeping with a Chinese spy and being on the intelligence committee. So there's that. Also, there's they have pretty good authority that he once let a fresh one out while he was on TV during an interview. That became a pretty funny scandal at the time. But yeah, the most crazy thing is probably the Chinese spy thing, and he's still on the intelligence committee. But he let out just some crazy tweets about COVID, about how his patient is running thin with people who aren't vaccinated because of his children who don't have a choice, ages 5 and under. He has 3 kids that are 5 and under. So I'm going to tackle that and the hysteria. Biden, all of his plans have just been toppling down as far as mandates. The courts have been blocking one after another. There was a pause recently on 10 states for medical mandates. So that's good. We talked yesterday a little bit about how Biden, they had a memo out that was like, we're not going to be pushing this on our federal employees. And I guess they're going to pause until after the holidays. But if it's so important, why would you pause until after the holidays? Could it be, in fact, because you don't want the only ones getting fired to be federal employees and losing their jobs during Christmas time because that's not good for your poll numbers? I think that might be it, sir. I think he might I think that might be it, sir. So none of these people are very sincere at all. But they're pushing it for power, but they're losing a lot of steam. And I feel like maybe they back themselves in a corner. At some point you would think that something would click and they just pretend like they never tried to force it on people. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, we're just living our lives, going on about, because it happened with masks, right? They're like, we need 100 days of masking. And all of a sudden they're like, well, you know what? Take the mask off. It's fine. We're going to live our lives. And then, of course, now we're to the point where people are trying to do the masking. But a lot of people have had enough. So it is amazing that people are still trying to push it. But we got to talk about them, expose them with some cold, hard facts and some numbers by the CDC. If you're still hysterical, especially on behalf of your children, you're a hysterical person. You probably need some professional help. And I don't mean to go see a doctor. You should talk to your doctor. Maybe they can put things in perspective. But I'm talking about you might need to see professional help because you are living in a hysterical world. And it's not maybe totally your fault because people definitely tried to drive you crazy and they have driven you crazy. But at some point you have to take accountability for yourself and wake up and realize that you have been duped. And duped very hard because the data does not back up your hysteria. It just doesn't. But that's what they need for power. That's what they need for power. I also want to talk about this interview with Pete Buttigieg, who's pushing the Build Back Better plan because they really, really want you to get off needing gasoline. So they want you to buy electric cars, even though they have a lot of buddies and friends and stuff that are into the electric cars. And, there's nothing that the government does on behalf of you that is normally for just solely your benefit because they love you so much. There's always an ulterior motive. So they should just, let things play out how they're going to play out. The market will eventually get to a place where people will probably get off, gasoline cars and do electric when it is like fiscally feasible and it makes sense. But being, I don't know, just totally ridiculous as far as your energy policies and making it so the cost of gasoline is so high. So everyone's trying to run to electric cars, which still isn't happening because they're too expensive. We just have a lot of leaders who just don't know how to lead. They want to get things done, but they don't know how to lead. So that's why they have to force you and push you along. Um, because they just don't know how to be responsible. So we will be talking about that as well, and also some solemn and sad, tragic news that has happened locally. That I will mention in a second. But we did have an active shooter today at Oxford High School, and that is really close to me. So it is really kind of surreal watching the news and being like, I know where that is. I know exactly where that is. Um, and knowing people that have friends that are there, like my sister just said, one of her coworkers has a sister that's at that high school, and there were three people who had died. They were updates not too long ago. They're going to do another one, I believe, at 5 after this broadcast will be over. If maybe it won't be over, we'll see. We usually try to go like an hour, but sometimes we go over. So there's still, I'm investigating, I'm sure, but they do have the person in custody. But it's always senseless, always tragic. I don't know the motivations or anything of why they did that. I'm sure they're still investigating. They're still keeping some things tight-lipped. They think this person acted alone, but obviously you don't want to inspire the people to get up and do the same thing as well. So try to be careful with our reporting. But I mean, there's not much more than I guess that I know that I just said right now. Other information will come out. They do apparently know how the gun got in the school. They didn't say that, I believe, at the briefing that they had at about 2:45, I think, is when they had it. Um, but it's obviously a tragedy. There were other people who were shot and were injured right now, but three students were killed. Um, and like I said, it's pretty surreal when you know the area, you know where it happens. It's sad when it happens anywhere, but it is local to me. It is very close where it happened. So I was watching the news, and a woman was on the news talking about how her son just had an inkling and didn't want to go to school that day. And they said that there were some people like talking some threats and stuff. So I don't know how legit that is, that maybe this person did something premeditated. That's something I'm assuming they're still investigating, going through social media, talking to parents and so on. But they do have the person in custody. They are exercising their right to not speak, so they called for a lawyer. So they haven't, last I heard from updates from the news, they hadn't expressed why they did it exactly, but it was a 15-year-old sophomore student who did it. um but anyway, this mother was talking about her son, and he just got up that day and felt an inkling like he didn't want to go to school. And it was just, I don't know, like a small bit of his discernment to not go to school. And so she didn't press him, and he didn't end up going. And I don't know, sometimes you got to listen to those feelings. Sometimes you got to listen to those little instincts or feelings, if you want to say it's a leading of the Lord or whatever. But the mother was glad that she listened to her child on that day, and said she was praising God, thanking God, that they didn't, make him go, and he was safe. But it's a tragedy when anything like this happens. So just keep families in your prayers. As we, thankfully, the Oakland County, police department, sheriff department, they are really on their job. They sent like a force in there because I didn't know how large it was to respond to. They just sent a lot of people to go in, so they're all investigating. They're all, the person who did it, they gave themselves up. There wasn't any sort of resistance on that part. But they were on the scene quick, and this is a school that also prepares for situations like that. So they did have a plan in place. But there was a loss of life. And it's unfortunate that people have to be prepared for situations like this in today's time. But it's just an unfortunate fact of reality. I wonder how many parents are really shaken up right now. The interview that I saw, she was talking about how mother was like, until they get some more security and stuff involved, I'm probably gonna have my child just keep going online for a little while. And after a year of such disruption, um, it's really unfortunate that people would have this fear right now. But I hope they can get to the bottom of this. They said it was right now looks like they acted alone. And of course they don't want anyone to like pop up because a lot of times these, active shooters are inspired by other ones. I don't know if it's I just don't we just don't know the motive. At least I don't know the motivation right now. I'm sure more reports and stuff will come out and there'll be more information tomorrow and more that I'll post on social media, but it's about all I know. And I my heart goes out to the families. I don't know if I know anyone personally who was hurt right now because I didn't see the names released yet. I'm sure they want to talk to families and other stuff before that all goes out. But keep you in my thoughts and my prayers. Keeping my thoughts and my prayers. It's a senseless thing, and we just have a society that has no appreciation for life. People have no appreciation for their own lives, let alone other people's lives. And it's just really something that we've lost as a society. Of course, I'm speaking sort of broadly at this point, but um we need a radical change in this nation. And I guess that's all I have to say about that right now at this point in time. But I guess as I said, keep everyone in your prayers. I do want to encourage you all to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content that I have on the website. I do want to thank Brighter Michigan Pack for me being in the studio today. As always, if I say something today that triggers you, they don't care, I don't care. It doesn't work like that. I'm just using the space. God bless them. I appreciate being able to be here and do what I do. But they do great work. If you do live in, well, you don't have to live in Michigan to support Brighter Michigan Pack, but they do great work. And they've done work for some people outside of the state too. So just look into them. They do great stuff. Please, as I say, go to the website, check out different stuff that I have different merchandise you guys can check out, like the goat hoodies. I got them in different colors. Got the Denounce White Supremacy Defeat Joe Biden shirt. I got different Trump stuff. I'm not the victim you're looking for. I do also have different books you guys can get. This is a nonfiction book, a faith book, Slay Your Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear. I do also have historical fiction fantasy books. And also, some of you have told me that you've purchased Super Kid for your kids and they like it thus far. I do thank you all for checking it out. Please keep buying. Appreciate it. I really appreciate it. If you go to this is all available at ninjadispublishing.com, but if you go to blacktnews.com, there is a link in the merchandise to my book website if you guys want to check out anything that I have up there. I do want to, my sister sent me, the funny thing that I have today is something that my little sister sent me. And she also sells merchandise as well. She's a little talented artist. Well, she's not little, she's a grown person. She's just little to me. But I'm gonna show you the meme first that she sent me because it was so funny. So you guys know yesterday I talked about Dr. Fauci and how arrogant he is. I'm gonna play this clip again from this interview that he had, just so you understand the context of his arrogance.
Anybody who's looking at this carefully realizes that there's a distinct anti-science flavor to this. So if they get up and criticize science, nobody's gonna know what they're talking about. But if they get up and really aim their bullets at Tony Fauci, well, people could recognize there's a person there, so it's easy to criticize. But they're really criticizing science because I represent science. That's dangerous. To me, that's more dangerous than the slings and the arrows that get thrown at me. And if you damage science, you are doing something very detrimental to society long after I leave.
Okay, so I am the science. He said it before, but he said some other wild things, but I'm not going to replay my whole spiel from yesterday. You should watch it. You can go back and watch it. But I am the science. So my sister sent me this on Twitter from the screenshot from Twitter. And when he said they're really criticizing science because I represent science, that's dangerous. And so I had this a screenshot of people use this gift from this movie with Tom Hanks. He said, "Look at me, I am the science." It's just so crazy that you can feel that you represent all of science. all of science. And like I went on a big thing yesterday about how this man has lied to people's faces continuously. He's a bureaucrat. He doesn't care about, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say he doesn't care about the science, but at the end of the day, he's let people know that he tells lies because he feels that they are valid lies. And I don't understand that either. And I know people tell white lies or noble lies and stuff all the time. I just wasn't raised to do that, to respect that, to like that. You know, even if it was a joke or something, but if it, you know, we weren't allowed to tell a joke if it was something that was not a part of reality. If it was if it was a lie, it'd be like, nope, you can't joke like that. That's a lie. As a matter of fact, we had to like, my nephew was like doing that the other day on Sunday, and we're like, that is a lie. He's like, no, it's a joke. We're like, no, that is a lie. You are not allowed to lie. So I don't appreciate the noble lies. You can tell people the truth. You can sometimes, as a government official, you may have to keep certain things close to the chest. Maybe some things you can't go to the public with, but the things that he lied about could put people at risk. Now, the particular thing I mentioned the other day was how he told people not to wear masks, and then he said to wear masks, and he said, "Well, I told them not to wear masks because, we needed them for medical professionals." And in that case, you chose that some people were worth risking their lives if you feel that the mask helped save their lives so much. But people, the data is the virus will decide whatever the virus wants to decide it's going to spread. People are going to get it. And some people, your age, your weight, mostly your age and comorbidities, if you know, the older you are, the more in the danger zone you are. If you have other respiratory diseases and stuff like that, if you are a bigger person, that's going to hurt you as well, which is really amazing that they did not focus on anyone's like health during like this whole entire time. I think like some point in time, maybe toward the end of last year, they did a report like, oh, obesity and COVID, there's a thing there. I'm like, no kidding. Like we knew that from the get go, but you didn't want to encourage people. And then they even like put a spin like, well, it's Black people and Hispanic people are heavier than white people, and it's just harder. It takes time. I'm like, yeah, but you had a whole entire year to tell people to get fit. Now people can obviously do whatever they want to decide whether they're going to get fit or not. But if can you imagine if they had like, I don't know, encouraged healthy lifestyles, like as I don't know, even like a quarter as much as they were pushing people to mask. And I don't mean like forcing, I mean like just encouragement. Or like, I don't know, incentives. Like you could get like in a lotto for like if you take a vaccine, but it's not like you couldn't have like, I don't know, the cash for weight loss or something crazy like it was, they just showed you where their priorities were. They had doses to push. Something that was really interesting. Rand Paul, who was talking about Dr. Fauci, I was listening to Fox News a little bit yesterday, and he was talking about how people are still pushing the Pfizer vaccines, even though the Pfizer vaccines aren't working as well as they said they would, particularly not against these new variants. And he said they have other vaccines or whatever that they could tweak or ready to go that for Delta or whatever, but they're still pushing the ones that we have. And he said, I don't know if they're trying to be frugal or they have to get these many doses out. He's like, but why aren't they were so mad at Trump and condemned him for his Operation Warp Speed, which it worked. They got the vaccines out. So why aren't they trying to push out another new vaccine that is more effective? Why are they still pushing the one that's tailored to these other ones so hard? They just have to make sure they get all those pushed out before they, I don't know, do the tweak ones and say, hey, you need them both. Like, what is that about? So I thought that was an interesting point. I thought it was an interesting question, and maybe they'll have to, I don't know, put Pfizer or Fauci back up in Congress and answer those such questions. But I think they're interesting things to think about. So I am the science. Dr. Fauci. So anyway, thank you, Tina, for sending me that. If you guys have other funny sort of things to send me, you can always, pop them up in Facebook or at me on Twitter. That's probably the easiest way for me to see those things. Um, Also, Tina, I mentioned that she is a little artist, and she does have a sale on her website, Tina's Text Portraits. So you guys want to check those things out. She has these little cute, teeny tiny portraits that she has. You can get them on easels, but you can also hang them as cute little ornaments. So check those out. She does great work. I will play a little commercial at the end of the show with some of her things. But go support her. Go support her. She's a proud little conservative doing her thing. So I want to go into Eric Swalwell's tweet because they're just crazy. They're just absolutely bonkers. Going back to this COVID stuff. So all they have is hysteria because the facts just aren't with them. They haven't been with them for a while. Fauci gets really mad if you talk about gain of function research and his role in this stuff, and he tries to like, well, they're just attacking me. They're attacking me. Go look at January 6th. That's where he's saying about Ted Cruz and them. Like, what about January 6th? Like, what does that have to do with you and COVID and gain of function research in China, sir? What does that got to do with anything? So all they have is deflection and hysteria and so on. But Swalwell takes the cake, I think. So he said, I'm losing my patience. I've tried to reason with the unvaxxed. I've directed some to medical pros. I don't judge. Really? Okay. I don't judge, but hear them out. No one believes that. No one believes that. And steer them to the facts. The unvaxxed love to say it's about choice, but you know who doesn't have a choice? My 3 kids under 5. Now, do you know who doesn't have a choice? All these people that you want to, I guess they do have a choice. They have a choice between like, are they going to feed their families or are they going to keep working? So those are the choices that these people keep trying to force upon the American people. Now, the actual job of the government is to secure the rights of the governed. Like that's what they're supposed to do. I know that's a little confusing. I know that's a little confusing because that's not what they tend to do most of the time. Most of the time, they're just trying to give themselves more power so they can have their team do whatever they want. And our team, we elect them and are like, hey, can you reel this in? And some of them will try, but then there's other people who are like, hey, we like the big power too. Want to cozy up with their donors and other stuff. So there's not a lot of people who are like committed to this limited government thing and just really focusing on protecting our rights. But that is what the government is supposed to do. So and if there is some kind of emergency or something, or it is necessary to maybe like to just overstep their bounds a little bit, they're supposed to use like the least aggressive measure necessary. They're not supposed to just be like, you know what, you can't have a job anymore. Like that is not supposed to be the thing. So we are seeing courts strike down Biden as far as like the OSHA that got struck down, held up in the courts. Biden has now like he did a memo the other day, was like, we're not going to force this on federal employees. We're going to hold off until after Christmas, after the holidays, which I'm not surprised because they don't want their people to be the only ones who are getting fired at this point, since all the other ones have started to fail. And so now we have 10 states where the medical mandates for like healthcare professionals is being blocked as well. So all good signs that it was all big government overreach and Biden and them is being shot down. And they knew that they weren't supposed to do these things. Originally, they said, we're not going to do the mandates. We can't do the mandates. That's not the government's job. And then they decided, you know what? We can do that because we said so. And I don't know what for whatever reasons. Obviously, I think it's always money and corruption somewhere. But they decided to overstep the bounds of what they knew they were supposed to do as being the leaders in the government. So they talk about who doesn't have a choice. The people they forced into options where they had. I know people who were like deathly afraid to get the COVID shots because they were afraid of what was in it, not because they were some kind of nutbags that just read every ingredient and go crazy, but because they knew that it was actually something that could cause medical harm to them, that they could have some kind of reaction that would be very bad for them, but they still had to risk it and take it because their jobs forced them to. And man, they had some, I know some people who had some really bad reactions to it. They wanted to force all these people to do it, yet no one wanted to take accountability for that. There is no accountability if something really bad happens to you most of the time. I mean, you can go to there's a special fund or whatever you can go to and set up, but they're not going to pay you as much as they pay these illegal immigrants with these kids getting separated at the borders. It's not going to be one of those sweet Biden deals. So talk about people who don't have a choice. Talk about people who don't have a choice. I don't remember him standing up for people and their freedoms. As a matter of fact, he's upset about people and their freedoms. He's saying you talk about your choice, but my kids don't have a choice. Let's get further into his tweet because it just gets crazier. Blah blah blah. You have the right. You have the right to not get vaxxed. Fine. Then business and government have a right to tell you that you're not welcome to patronize or you can't get on a plane. Because what right do you think you have to expose my kids to your COVID? Now, businesses should be able to make a lot of decisions, but the problem with businesses is that they're following the leads of the government and what they were pushing. And a lot of them just wanted to cover their own butts as far as restrictions and people wearing masks and so on. But they know that people don't want to work in all those conditions where they have to keep doing all the COVID masks and stuff like that. People don't want to have to work knowing that they might have to get vaccinated. So it's causing an issue as far as getting people employed. It causes an issue with people and their customers coming in because when you're trying to enforce these mandates. So there's a lot of businesses that didn't like this stuff from jump, but there was government entities that were forcing them and would not allow them to stay in business if they would not enforce them. So don't act like businesses are just doing this all this. Now there's some businesses, the owners, they're sold in, they're totally bought into the COVID stuff for sure. But a lot of these places, even if some of them might be into the buying of it, still don't want to enforce it so much because they know that it's bad for morale in some regards and it's bad for business. And the only reason why a majority of these people have forced it and pushed it is because of the government. In Michigan, our governor, she had all these mandates and stuff. And when it was clear that there were some local sheriffs and whatnot, I'm not doing all these dumb things. And when it was clear that she didn't have the authority to keep forcing all this stuff, she got struck down in the courts. They decided, we're going to go to the businesses and we're going to take away your licenses. And they went through the health department. And if you didn't push the things that they wanted you to, then you could lose your license. So they turned the business owners and the companies against the customers. So they did what they thought they had to in order to stay in business, to stay afloat, especially after so many were shut down. And a lot of businesses did not survive. There's this one video of this man, I think it's maybe from the west side of the state. He owned west to me anyway, but he owned I guess most things are west to me, but he owned a music store. And there were other shops that got money from the government, or there's other places around him that were allowed to stay open, and he couldn't stay open because he was deemed non-essential. And so when he had to close his shop, he was just crying, sobbing. And he said, it's not just losing a business, it's me losing my dream. And it was so heartbreaking to watch this old man lose his company like that. And there were some people in the comments, I think when I first saw it on Twitter or something, and some people saying, well, he should have, or Facebook, wherever I saw it, saying, well, he should have figured out a way to survive, or he could have had online classes or whatever. Not everybody has the means, not everyone has the know-how, and not everyone has the means to hire someone who has the know-how to do all those things. And if you want to survive, you have to figure out how you can survive. And that's the nature of business. But why are we acting like it was some kind of natural process that happened to people and they just got phased out? They were forced out. They were forced out by burdensome regulation from the government where they got to pick winners and losers and said, you're essential, you're not essential. You're not essential, Mr. Music Store. But you know what? Big Macs, you are totally essential. Please keep making food to make people fat during this pandemic, even though comorbidities of if for COVID is like being overweight. Yeah, sure. Okay. Didn't make any sense. They could have given people an option. They could have just allowed people to have the option to decide whether they're going to shop or whatnot, whether they're going to be patrons of his business, still go in, take their lessons, learn music or whatever. Because instruments are expensive. When people decide that they need one, that is a big purchase. That is a big purchase, and he probably made most of his sales probably from actually instructing people. I'll never really get over the way that man cried losing his company and how little people cared, how little our governor cared, how little people in authority, the president, who, cared for these people losing everything they have. And congratulations to everyone who survived, because I know it wasn't easy, but there's some people who lost everything, and we're just supposed to forget about that. Some people forgot about that and voted to keep the same old in California. I hope we don't do that same thing in Michigan in 2022. I pray to God that we do not. People need to pay for what they did. Let's get back to the tweet. As parents, let's own the outrage. The loony carnival barkers at the school board meetings do not reflect where most parents are. He's really out of touch. Loudoun County, not in Virginia, Youngkin Winsome Sears, awesome. the wins there, a lot of it had to do with people were concerned about the economy. People were concerned about the mandates and lockdown stuff. People didn't like their kids not going to school. And you know who was like campaigning for the Democrats and stuff? Weingard with the teachers unions and stuff. They still wanted stuff to be locked down. They'll still push that stuff. They'll milk it for every dollar that they can get, every contract that they can get. They won't. They're not putting the kids first. Kids are the ones who are least impacted by COVID. And he's going on in this epic rant, pretending that it's all for the benefit from his kids who are 5 and under. And I'm going to show you why that is so stupid. And if you watch the show, I'm sure you already know why it's so stupid. But I have some more numbers to back up why it's so darn stupid. And it's amazing that this man is on the Intelligence Committee, yet has none. Or just flat out rejects it. He's really out of touch if he thinks the people at the school board meetings are the ones who are loony carnival barkers. And the mandates and masks, that's not the only reason why people are going to these school board meetings. People are really upset about critical race theory as well. In Loudoun County, people were also upset about, it wasn't even just Loudoun County, but people were concerned about those bathroom policies, but people were also concerned about the sort of books that they were putting in kids' schools. I talked about a little bit of stuff on this show about, like, there was one book that was in an elementary school library of 2 girls, which one had really short hair. You didn't know that I didn't even know. And the other one wasn't very feminine looking either. And they just had long hair. So I had to read it a couple times to even understand they were both girls, to be honest. But one was obviously older. At least it looked like that, because when one was quite smaller than the other, and they were hanging out after school, and then they were all of a sudden sleep over in each other's bed. And then the one with the short hair was like, I'm a boy. I believe I'm a boy. And they're like, oh, thank you for telling me. And then they held hands and they said, I like you. And then they started kissing each other. And I'm like, what? I'm like, even if this, and some people were pushing back, like when I first saw a parent has shared this on Twitter, and some people were pushing back, like, oh, you're just against because it's LGBT. I'm like, no, if they were two, well, technically, I guess from their perspective, this person is this girl who says they're a boy now is now a boy. Why, like, but why would you think if it was just cisgender opposite sex people together in a bed? Why would you think that would be appropriate for your children in elementary to read, for that to be a book in the library? So people were coming against all kinds of things. So COVID and the mask and the fact that parents want their kids in school is not the only reason why these parents are showing up at these school board meetings. So it's just amazing that he would frame these concerned parents as if they're crazy, loony carnival barkers. Your unvax status is creating new variants. So get your darn shots or stay inside your house, but don't mess with my kids. So I've mentioned this on the show too. I don't know what's his background or data for that accusation. But I do remember there is a video, and I can't find it. Steven Crowder did play on his show once of when the vaccines, I guess, started first being rolling out, that they could said sometimes when you have vaccines, they mutate from the vaccines. And I remember another video, and I believe I played it for you guys some time ago, so it's in my computer somewhere. I guess I can play it on a different day. But maybe I saw it on TikTok. I must have did both. But someone on CNN was talking about how people need to get vaccinated because the people who were vaccinated, they can spread it to people who aren't vaccinated and create different kinds of variants that would be better, stronger or whatever. And I'm like, what? Like, that is unnerving. They're really trying to freak people out. But if that's the case, then it's the vaccine causing the mutations, correct? That's what their experts are saying. According to Fauci, once said it was like possible, and then this other person who's on CNN was saying that's what's happening. He's still blaming the people who were unvaxxed, but it's coming from the people who were vaxxed, correct? So I thought that was interesting, and it weirded me out at the time. So now he's saying that the people who aren't vaccinated, Swalwell is saying that you're creating the variants. And natural immunity is a good thing. Israeli studies that came out, it's way better than getting the vaccine as far as your protection, as far as to be able to uphold to some of these mutations and stuff coming out anyway. So you can respect that, or you should respect it, I think. But it's interesting because someone sent out a FOIA request to the CDC requesting information on how much the unvaccinated were spreading, people who were unvaccinated but had natural immunity, how much they were spreading COVID to other people. And the CDC couldn't give out that data after the FOIA request because they don't collect it. So the CDC has no interest of knowing how natural immunity unvaccinated people are spreading COVID. Why would they have no interest in keeping that data? I can tell you. Because they don't want to find an answer that they're not going to like. They don't want to have information and data available for an answer they may not like. The answer being that people who have natural immunity, maybe they're not really spreading it, and that it's way better, perhaps way better than you getting Pfizer or Moderna and so on, Johnson Johnson and whatnot. But it's just pretty amazing. The CDC collects data on all kinds of things. They don't collect data on that. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So he also said, get the shot or stay in your house, but don't mess with my kids. So the question is, why can't you keep your kids at home? If you're really that pressed, Mr. Swalwell, why do you go out? Why do you and him and his friends, Democrats and stuff, they go out maskless. Joe Biden, he went out shopping the other day. He didn't have a mask on, even though the store said wear a mask. And Jen Psaki was confronted about it, and she was like, well, people see him wear masks. And it's not just even about him, it's about him saving lives. It's like, really, Jen? Y'all still on about that? Y'all still on about, and you know what? FYI, the I wear a mask and it's saving your life, like hero complex people had, never made sense. It never made sense because they said that it's not going to stop you from catching it, it's going to stop you from spreading it. That's what they said, right? So and you're like, wear a mask, be a hero. Okay, so but you can't spread COVID unless you have it, right? So if you really think you have it, why are you outside near anyone potentially giving it to them? Now, granted, you may not know, you may be asymptomatic and life has to go on, so you just have to risk it, right? So why do you feel like you have a hero complex when you're out here risking people's lives, giving them COVID because you had to go to the grocery store or go to the restaurant or whatever? So I'm not saying that you shouldn't go outside and try to live your life to the best of your ability. I'm saying the hero complex that you have about wearing a mask is something you need to drop. It's something you need to drop. You're not a hero for wearing a mask. A piece of cloth that's not really doing anything, that doesn't really work, and even the Biden folks have admitted that it doesn't work. Unless you're wearing some kind of fitted N95 mask, you are doing nobody no favors, including yourselves, including your kids, when you send them to school in a mask. You're just not. You are absolutely delusional. It is no better than a teddy bear and a security blanket, just giving you a false sense of security. I'm sorry, the monster is still outside and under your darn bed. But it's not even that bad, actually. Let's get to the data, because he said, leave my kids alone. He's doing it for his kids. He's hysterical for his kids. So let's look at the data. This is from the CDC. So this is a chart with COVID deaths of different darn ages. I have highlighted the ones that are relevant to Mr. Swalwell's kids, because he says he has 3 kids, 5 and under. So we can see the dates are started from the 1st of January in 2020, going on from just about 10 days ago. So as it stands, the total deaths from COVID ages 1 through 4 are 68. 68, ages 1 through 4, from January 1st of 2020 to 10 days ago. That is the last information that they had. 68 in the United States of America. And he's hysterical about how you need to get a shot because and screw your freedoms, because he has kids 5 and under. So 5 to 14, those are the ages that they approved the vaccine for. Now, that they're pushing for the vaccine for, that they're first we're saying, oh no, the new variant, it hurts kids, it really hurts kids. That's what they said about Delta too. From everything that we know about the Omicron, it's not it's not anything to be worried about, shutting down travel to South Africa and all this other kind of stuff. That number is 199. That's 5 to 14. So that's the age group of the people who they just approved the vaccine for, that they're pushing for, saying, go get your kids vaccinated, get them vaccinated, get them vaccinated, get them vaccinated. And even in some places of the country, they're saying if they're not vaccinated, they can't come to school. That's what they're trying to push. Not even 200, about 200 kids in that age group have died throughout the total pandemic. Those are the numbers. That is the data. The data that the man on the intelligence committee is ignoring. I got rid of my little logo there so you could see on the end there, pneumonia. and the pneumonia deaths from those age brackets. And I just wanted you to note that it is higher than the COVID numbers. So that's the CDC. That's the source. That is the source right there. It doesn't make any sense. I've shown this graph too a lot of times on the site or during the show. Annual deaths among children in the United States, 1 to 4. COVID is very low. It's under suffocation, flu / pneumonia, cardiovascular disease, cancer, homicide, vehicle accidents, and drownings. Do you guys think that people are more scared of their kids, of people being with their kids, or the kids getting into a car accident and dying, or you think they're more scared of COVID? Because them dying in a car accident is more likely. Suffocation is more likely. Ages 1 to 4. 5 to 14, COVID is a little bit more dangerous than suffocation, but they're pretty much at the same. Still under flu and drowning, heart disease, homicides, suicide. So those are the numbers. That's this perspective that they're missing, that they continuously keep trying to ignore. So again, this is a person who is on the intelligence committee, who slept with a Chinese spy and is still there, which we'll see if he still has that position after the Republicans take the House in 2022, especially since Democrats want to play a game where they want to strip away committee positions from people they don't like, for jokes and whatnot, and who they think is a little wackadoodle. Well, the Democrats have a lot of irresponsible, corrupt, wackadoodle people on their sides, and if they want to play a game where they keep stripping committees and stuff like that, I don't know how hard Republicans will actually play ball like that, honestly, but they definitely could. But will Swalwell still be on the Intelligence Committee? Republicans should probably put their foot down and be like, no, you shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be there. This is also a man who's like, oh, you guys think you're gonna, if there's some kind of, the government is tyrannical and you think you need your guns to protect you from the government, we have nukes. And it's like, you about to nuke the US because we having a disagreement? Okay, I'm pretty sure that's hostile, man. like we our Second Amendment is useless because you guys have nukes. Like it's that extreme for you. You're willing to like, guns are bad, but nukes are. You know what? I'm gonna nuke you. So he's a really silly person. Those are the kind of people who are our representatives. He's not my representative, but he is not my personal one or anything like that. It doesn't represent my state, but he's up there in DC. What's her name? Fang Fang. Someone said. I don't remember what the spy's name is off the top of my head, but those are the jokes, at least. Those are the jokes. So I just wanted to make it evident how hysterical and silly some of these people are. Who are still pushing lockdowns, who are still pushing vaccinations, and they're doing it under the guise of we want to protect our kids. Well, I know there's a lot of people who genuinely want to protect their kids, but if you do have a fear, like legitimately, I didn't want to just mock this person, though he was worthy of mocking. But I'm sure you guys know people who are so deathly afraid for their kids. Please, I'll post this on my website. This is a screenshot I have of the CDC, so you guys can share it with other people and just let them know. Let them know that the numbers just don't bear that sort of hysteria out. It's not I'm not gonna say it's not an unreasonable fear, but it is an irrational fear. It's an irrational fear. So please feel better about your kids. Try to live life as much as you can, as normally as you can. If you're an older person, you want to take the vaccine, sure, that's That's fine, but just know that your kids are mostly just okay. They're mostly just gonna be absolutely fine. If they catch COVID, they will probably not even know, and they'll be asymptomatic and fine. So if you want to protect yourself and get the vaccine, if you don't even already have natural immunity, you can do that. But don't think that your kid needs this needs it because they're in so much danger. And then it's not going to stop with that. People push boosters, and there's always the next thing because these people are selling stuff, and these networks are buying ads or taking the money from these companies as well. So there is a big racket. Don't think that everybody doesn't have some kind of agenda when they push the stuff to you. It is not out of just the kindness of their hearts. It's just not. It's just not. So moving on, Pete Buttigieg had this interview in regards to Build Back Better. And so they're really on this electric car kick, and Democrats have been for a while, but Biden's administration is really, really, really pushing it. And so he had this interview where he's like, hey, if gas prices are high, we need people to get into electric cars.
Areas across our communities and across our country.
I know it's now the bipartisan infrastructure law. Now there's talk about the Build Back Better Act, which is the quote unquote human infrastructure. Are there things in that legislation that's now being cobbled together that is important to you as the Secretary of Transportation?
Absolutely. Yes. Obviously, most of the physical infrastructure work was contemplated in the bill that was just signed, but there is more envisioned in the Build Back Better law. I'll give you one example. It contains incentives to make it more affordable to buy an electric vehicle, up to a $12,500 discount in effect for families thinking about getting an EV. Families that once they own that electric vehicle will never have to worry about gas prices again. The people who stand to benefit most from owning an EV are often rural residents who have the longest distances to drive. They burn the most gas. And underserved urban residents in areas where there are high gas prices and they're lower income. So they would gain the most by having that vehicle. But these are the very residents who have not always been connected to electric vehicles that are viewed as kind of a luxury item. If we can make an electric vehicle less expensive for everybody, more people can take advantage, and we'll be building and selling more American-made EVs, which means over time they'll become less expensive to make and to buy for everybody. So that's just one example of something in the Build Back Better legislation that would be great news on top of all the work that we're going to be doing right now to deliver the bill that just passed. That's going to be plenty to keep me busy for quite a while.
Okay, this is the last question, and the most...
So just a few things. You could just not do things to make gas expensive. Well, there's that. They obviously have an agenda, and Obama had one too, and they really tried to push against drilling, and there was only so much that they could do to stop like people as they were doing fracking and stuff in the country. They couldn't stop all those people. But when Biden so they did have agendas to drive up gas prices to get people in electric. It's not a new thing that Biden just thought up one day, and he was part of the Obama administration, and a lot of those people who were in the Obama administration are carried over. They're just like, it's just a part two of a nightmare, I think. But they don't mind that they mind that the poll numbers are bad right now. They mind that they're upset that they're not at a place right now where people can just jump on electricity. And Granholm and people have mentioned we're just not there where we can totally get rid of the natural gas and all, and all the fossil fuels and stuff that they don't like anyway. And it's going to take time. However, they didn't stop them from stopping us from drilling. That was like priority one of Biden when he decided to list a crap ton of executive orders, which there were people from different unions that were like, oh no, oh no, the promises, it's broken. That were very surprised, like, hey, these are really good jobs working on these pipelines that are suddenly gone. And we supported you. So why? Why? He told you that he would, and the media tried to say, "Oh no, he won't," but he said he would, and Trump was like playing it, mentioned on debate stages, and they tried to like, "Well, no, that's not true." And so Trump started going to rallies, showing videos of Biden talking about how he would get rid of what he could, and people just didn't want to believe him. And now we are where we are. So they want to push people into these electric cars and like, well, that'd be a great thing. And in this bill, we're going to have incentives. We're going to have these discounts. It's like, okay, but um, so what? You're going to subsidize them with government money, which already belongs to us anyway. So you're taking our money that you confiscated, and then you're going to give it back to buy a product that people really don't want right now. They may want it, but it's very expensive, and that's why they're doing the incentives or whatever, the discounts, whatnot to get it. But the government doesn't make money; they take it from someone else. If the car companies themselves can just make it cheaper, then they can do that. I mean, when Ford started popping out his cars, he wanted people to be able to work there, have nice jobs, and they actually like built the middle class, and he wanted to keep the price of cars accessible for the families who would buy them. They like totally changed the culture of America, because they had a vision for it. So if people want these electric cars to be driven, then these companies will have to figure out how to get the price down. That is not the government's job to be like, hey, we're going to get all these incentives to do that. If the government needs to help people along to be able to do that, then that is an issue. That is a problem. If these electric cars were cheap and they were in demand, people would just buy them. And once they get to that point and it becomes cost effective for families, you will not have to twist people's arm to leave gasoline if it is more cost effective for families to buy that vehicle. But they have to find out how to do that. But people are very suspicious. They're very suspicious when people have friends in high places in some of these companies. Granholm, who's the energy secretary, got into some really hot water. It wasn't even that hot. People were talking about it. But it wasn't as hot as it probably should have been. Because she had money in Proterra, I believe it was the company. And she ended up selling her stock in it, which was like 1.8 million, I think is what she got after she sold what she had in it. But Biden actually did a virtual tour for this company to be like, hey, go electric, support electric. And it's like your energy secretary has money invested in this company as you're all trying to get rid of gasoline and make the push towards electric cars. People know that you have friends that are invested in these companies with these subsidies and so on. You guys do not do kind things for free. You just do not. Whether it's with cars or the electric cars or even like school lunches. Did you guys know that school lunch program is not about the children? It wasn't about the children. It's to subsidize the people who grow, for farmers and stuff like that. They buy up that stuff. Like they even a couple of years ago, there was an article that someone put about wrote a history about it. I think it was maybe in the Washington Post. It was a really good article. It could have been political. I'll post it online. But they were even talking about how some people were like trying to get fish into the diet, the program at the school lunches, because they wanted to always have that money there, to always have that subsidy there for people buying like fish. Like, I don't want no fish in my lunch at school. My school had very good lunch when I was at like Holly in high school. They had very good lunch, but not everybody had good lunches. But it's never just a good deed for good deed's sake, and it's definitely not for the cars. A lot of these people are driven by ideology, for sure, but a lot of these people claim ideology, but they really have financial structures and reasons why they push what they push. Nancy Pelosi and her buddies do it all the time. So kudos to Granholm for selling her stock after she got blasted. And the articles were like, Granholm sells stuff after Republicans criticize. It's like, why is it just Republicans? Why do you have to frame it like that? Like this, it was obviously this is unethical. They're up here trying to push gas. They're making gasoline more expensive. They're They're stopping with drilling in different places. She's the energy secretary. Biden is actually going to places where she has money invested in the company to encourage people to buy electric cars and buses and whatnot. Invest in those things. It should have obviously been a big scandal. And it was a blip of some people were talking about, and people were like, this is a really big deal. And so she did end up selling that stock, but don't think that there's not other people making a buck somewhere. People push this stuff, but they don't mean it. Nancy Pelosi's buying a huge place. It said that she's buying a huge place in Florida. First of all, why should one go to Florida and have Ron DeSantis be her governor? I don't know if she's totally moving out of California after she there's rumors that she's retiring. I don't know if the devil retires, but we'll see. If she goes to Florida, why would you leave California? That's an amazing place, right? That's where you represent the people. Why would you just leave there and go to the evil Florida under Ron DeSantis? Why would you do that and buy a big beachfront property that's going to be underwater in a few years, 12 years or whatever AOC said about we only have 12 years to do whatever, or we're going to be in a catastrophic position. I remember when someone said that, and Rush Limbaugh, it was Al Gore said something to that regard, and Rush Limbaugh said, let's start the clock to see whatever. So he had a countdown clock on his website from the point of where Al Gore said, in 5 years, 10 years, or something like that, we're going to be beyond the point of no return. And that clock ran out, I think it was 2016. And it was on his website for so long, he had just kind of forgotten about it. And people had to remind him, hey, it's almost out. So people have been saying things for a long time and they've been alarmist with this stuff. But that's really, I think, to get acolytes who will push, who will fundraise, but they know the truth and they keep buying their beachfront properties. Maybe they'll scare all of you and make the land expensive and buy it up. Maybe that's the plan. I don't know. But they'll get you excited and be like, we gotta go to the polls to save the planet. Knowing good and well that they just want to make a buck somewhere. So this push for electric vehicles, again, if it makes sense for families, they will buy them. They will buy them. You do not have to and do all these incentives and stuff. The fact that you need all these incentives is where people are a little fishy on the matter. Don't trust these people. Don't trust them about anything. But if you have a sweet electric vehicle, people will buy it for sure. So that is the show for today. I got to get going, but before I do, I did say I would play this commercial for my sister. I do want you to check out her stuff. Check out my stuff as well, but I do want to show my sister's stuff. She is a sponsor of Black Tea News, actually. So go ahead and check out Tina's Text Portraits. She has these amazing little portraits that you can have. They're cute little desk mates for you, but also you can put them on your tree. She has these nice little ornaments, so check them out.
I've been making handcrafted miniature paintings for a few years now. But this holiday season, I'm excited to bring you something even more unique. These handcrafted paintings make the perfect accent for your desk at work, your Christmas tree, or just a great stocking stuffer. I'm really proud of these products, and I'm excited that they're available for you for this holiday season. Check them out now, whether you want it as just a painting in an easel, or your new favorite ornament.
Yep, so check out her stuff, and also please visit blacktnews.com. Check out different content that I have on my website, different articles, as well as different merchandise on the shop. And if you would like to support blacktnews.com, you go to blacktnews.com/donate. Please consider, if you like what I do here, you want to keep seeing expand and go as far as it can, make sure that you consider leaving a donation, and also consider getting merchandise. That is a way to help as well. You got like the My Money, My Business shirt. We also do have these cute little pumpkin spice season mugs with the little chibi Trump. I did draw that myself. And I do also have those on shirts. I'll also show the mugs that are You Are Not That Special. I do adore those. Thank you guys very much. I will see you tomorrow with more more of the news of the day. We'll try to cover more of the Jussie Smollett's trials going on. Maxwell, the Epstein mistress lady, her trials going on right now. The sort of things that she did is horrific, and the fact that there's just a lot that she'll be held accountable for, perhaps, but there's just a lot that they will try to keep hidden, and the network is so deep. I'll just say this one last thing before I go. When people are talking about QAnon stuff and Trump, the press would ask Trump about it, and they're like, "Well, they say that the QAnon, they think that you're good. There's a bunch of pedophiles in high places, and that you're going to save them." And Trump's like, "Well, that sounds like a good thing. Don't you think that sounds like a good thing?" He's like, I don't really know about that stuff, but that sounds like a good thing." So the thing QAnon people said, and I knew some people who were like into that stuff, they believed a lot of crazy things. But it was amazing to me that it seemed like the mainstream media was mostly offended or obsessed with QAnon's allegations of pedophilia being in high places. It really weirded me out because I'm like, they believe in weirder things. And this is a thing that is probably the least weird because there's a lot of prolific pedos for sure. For sure. And a lot of them are tied to Epstein, who did not kill himself, FYI. So we'll definitely cover some more things about the trial throughout the week as they go on and get some more information out. But God bless you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.